Today's lesson is Rio de Janeiro, Brazil's marvelous city. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today, again, we're traveling in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Okay, maybe you've already been to Brasilia and Sao Paulo, and you've decided to go check out Rio. Rio de Janeiro, of course, is sometimes just shortened to Rio. And, of course, this is a great city in Brazil. It's a marvelous city. And we talked about some of the attractions there last time, didn't we?
That's right. Last time we talked about Rio, the city, and how it has a lot of very interesting statues and landmarks. We looked at Christ the Redeemer, which is really big, and it's considered an engineering wonder. We also talked about Sugarloaf Mountain, which is located close to Christ the Redeemer. And we also talked about the Celeron Steps, which decorated by thousands of colored tiles from all over the world.
Right. We also talked about the Carioca Aqueduct, which is from colonial times. And now, of course, it's a modern tramway, and it's quite something to see. And, of course, who would go to Rio without going to the beach there, the Copacabana beach? It's got some great sand and waters, and, of course, you can go swimming there and have yourself a great time. But, of course, there are more things to see and do in Rio, especially Carnival celebrations. So let's talk about that now in the first paragraph of today's lesson.
However, the true soul of Rio de Janeiro reveals itself during its legendary carnival celebration, which is traditionally a last chance at revelry before the 40 days of Lent. This exciting event has deep roots in African, European, and indigenous cultures, blending them all together in an incredible display of music and dance. Rio's very first carnival celebration took place in 1723, and since then it has evolved into the world's largest, with millions of people filling the streets.
大家好，我们来看第一部分中的单字 legendary。它是形容词，意思是传奇的、家喻户晓的，或是传说中的。例如 The legendary singer was immortalized with a statue in his hometown. 人们在那位传奇歌手的故乡树立一座雕像，以表对他永久纪念。或者Several legendary baseball stars have played for the New York Yankees. 有多位传奇棒球球星都曾为纽约洋基队效力。下一个来介绍形容词 indigenous， 它的意思是土生土长的，也可以是本土的或是本地的意思。可以说 Colonists displaced the island's indigenous population. 殖民开拓者让该岛上的原住居民流离失所。又或者说The introduction of new species to a foreign environment always poses a threat to indigenous plants and animals. 将新的物种带到一个陌生的环境，对于当地的动植物一向会造成威胁。
However, the true soul of Rio de Janeiro reveals itself during its legendary carnival celebration, which is traditionally a last chance at revelry before the 40 days of Lent. Now, first of all, this sentence begins with the word however because it's picking up from the last paragraph of the last day, where we talked about all of the different things to go see in Rio de Janeiro. And here, however, starts the sentence that introduces what the true soul of Rio is, which is the legendary carnival celebration. First of all, legendary is a word that describes something that's very famous and very much admired. You can use legendary to talk about an actress, for instance. An actress from the 1940s from Hollywood could be described as a legendary actress. Or you could say that Elvis Presley was a legendary rock and roll star. And here, Carnival is also considered legendary because it's very famous. Everybody knows about it. And a lot of people go to Rio just to attend Carnival.
Right, and this is also sometimes pronounced as Carnival. If you're using Portuguese, a lot of people pronounce it it that way. You could also refer to carnival as some kind of celebration that can happen anywhere. Where I grew up, of course, sometimes during the summer there would be carnivals where it would come into town, it would have rides and attractions, and you can go down there and have some fun. That would be called a carnival. But here we're referring specifically to this celebration in Rio, which is called Carnival. And, of course, it's the last chance of revelry before the 40 days of Lent. Now, you have to be Catholic to know exactly what this is. I had some Catholic friends in university who told me what this is all about. There are 40 days before Easter, which is called Lent. That period of time is called Lent. And you're supposed to make a sacrifice during that time, like to give up some bad habits or something. And then when Lent is over, you can resume with those bad habits again.
Right. So Lent is a Catholic holiday, and Carnival is the period that comes right before Lent. Now, this exciting event has deep roots in African, European, and indigenous cultures, blending them all together in an incredible display of music and dance. So we mentioned before that it's a Catholic holiday, and that would be the part that comes from European culture because Catholicism is mainly European. And certain aspects of Carnival, perhaps the music and the dance, can be said to have African origins. And it also has indigenous influences, aspects of indigenous culture. Here, indigenous refers to people or things that have always been in one place. They were not imported. They didn't come from somewhere else to that place.
Right. So, of course, we have lots of African people living in Brazil. Of course, Brazil had slaves before that were brought over from Africa. And, of course, we've got lots of influence from Europe because Portugal came over to Brazil and took control of the place. And also, there are indigenous cultures there, like we have in various places around the world, especially here in Taiwan. We've got indigenous people like the Amis or the Atayal or the Bunun. Those are all indigenous tribes or nations here in Taiwan. And so they're all blended together, and we have this incredible display of music and dance with all those influences. You'll probably never see anything like it for the rest of your life.
That's right. And Rio's very first carnival celebration took place in 1723. And since then, it has evolved into the world's largest, with millions of people filling the streets. So we find out here that Rio's carnival has been around for many hundreds of years and has grown over the years. It started out perhaps as a not so big festival, and with the passage of time, it has become bigger and bigger. And now it's a celebration that's known around the world.
Of course, there are Catholics all over the world, and of course, they all celebrate the time before Lent, but this is the big celebration here, the granddaddy of them all, Carnival in Rio de Janeiro, and it's become the largest celebration before Lent takes place. And then when Lent starts, you need to mellow out and behave yourself until Good Friday and Easter, and then you probably can make some other decisions after that. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part.
Today, Carnival in Rio is marked by elaborate samba performances, costume parades, and street parties. Both visitors and locals join in the masked balls at Copacabana Palace and Copacabana Beach, or dance in the streets to the various bands that rock out across the city. To see the best of the best samba groups, though, you'll need a ticket to the Sambadrome, a special exhibition venue for Carnival samba performances.
第二部分介绍形容词 elaborate， 它的意思是精心制作的，也可以是繁复的、详尽的意思。例如 We spent hours marveling at the temple's elaborate carvings. 这座寺庙精细的雕刻让我们惊叹了好几个小时。或是 Kathy devised an elaborate plan to get back together with her ex-boyfriend. Kathy 策划了一个与前男友复合的详尽计划。下一个是 masked，它也是形容词，意思是蒙面的或是戴着面具的。举例来说 The masked robber threatened the bank teller with a gun, demanding her to open the vault. 那名蒙面抢匪用枪威胁着银行行员，要求他打开金库。又或者说 The city government is preparing for a masked ball, which is happening soon. 该市政府正在为即将到来的化妆舞会做准备。接下来我们看到单字 venue， 指的是事件或是活动等的场地或是举办地点。例如 This is one of the best venues in Chicago to see live music. 这是芝加哥最棒的现场音乐表演场地之一。也可以说 I don't think this is a suitable venue for the concert as it is not big enough. 我认为这不是一个适合举办演唱会的场地，因为它不够大。
Today, Carnival in Rio is marked by elaborate samba performances, costume parades, and street parties. So first of all, Carnival in Rio can be described as one giant performance. So specifically, there are elaborate samba performances. Samba is a type of fast dance that comes from Brazil, and it also describes the music that accompanies this type of dance. And this dance and music are both elaborate. So the word elaborate is used to describe something that's full of decoration and full of details. It's quite complex. It's not simple, but it's elaborate, complex, full of details in a very nice way, in a very exciting and beautiful way.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by temples in Taiwan because they're quite elaborate with various carvings and decorations and things like that. And here in Rio, you'll see some elaborate samba performances, or samba. You can pronounce it both ways. And again, elaborate means they're quite complicated. They've got lots of details. And a samba, of course, is a dance from Brazil, as tango is from Argentina, or flamenco is from Spain. They've got lots of dances in those Latin countries. And you've also got costume parades. A costume, of course, is a set of clothing that you wear so that you can look very colorful or you can look like someone else. Of course, here in Taiwan, lots of young kids in schools wear costumes for Halloween, and they are quite cute when they go out trick-or-treating. And, of course, a parade is when people go down the street and people can line the street and watch these things go by. You'll have people in costumes or they'll be riding on floats.
Yes, and both visitors and locals join in the masked balls at Copacabana Palace and Copacabana Beach, or dance in the streets to the various bands that rock out across the city. So it doesn't matter if you're a visitor or if you're a local, because everyone joins in the masked ball. So masked here refers to a situation wherein people wear masks. You can talk about a masked hero. For instance, Batman is a masked hero because he is a hero that wears a mask. And during Carnival, you may have seen pictures of this, of Carnival in Brazil or Carnival in Venice. People will walk around in costumes and they will be masked because they want their identities to be hidden.
Exactly. And of course, these balls or these parties, these celebrations, these dances take place at Copacabana Palace and Copacabana Beach. And then people will dance in the streets to the various bands that rock out across the city. So yes, indeed, you can join in the celebrations. You can dance in the streets because there will be various bands playing music. And when you rock out, you have a great time listening to lively rock and roll music or whatever kind of music they're playing down there. They're very good at jazz down in Brazil as well, so don't miss out on some of the great music in Brazil. And to see the best of the best samba groups, though, you'll need a ticket to the Sambadrome, a special exhibition venue for Carnival samba performances. So, yes, indeed, you want to see some of these samba groups performing, those dances and listening to the music. So, where you want to see the best of the best, you go to the Sambadrome, which is a great venue for seeing such performances. A venue is just a place where something takes place.
Right. I've seen videos and pictures of the Sambadrome and the music that goes on there and the dances and all of the dance troupes that perform, and it's truly magnificent, something that's very special, and it's probably worth the money to buy the ticket to go there.
It's worth the price of the round-trip airfare to Brazil as well. I think I'm going to talk to my travel agent right after the program. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's wrap things up now by talking about the third part after we listen to it first.
Those lucky enough to visit Rio this February can enjoy the once-in-a-lifetime experience of witnessing Carnival in all its glory as the city comes alive from the 9th to the 14th. With the amazing energy of its people, the beauty of its landscapes, and the magic of its carnival, Rio is truly a destination like no other.
第三部分看到片语 come alive， 它是指热闹起来或是变得充满活力。例如 This part of the city is empty during the day, but at night it comes alive. 这个城区白天时冷冷清清的，但到了夜晚便活络起来。又或者说 Jane doesn't usually come alive until after she has had her second cup of coffee. Jane 通常要喝了第二杯咖啡后才会有精神。最后一样介绍片语Like no other， 它的意思是与众不同的或是独一无二的。例如 It was a concert like no other, as thousands of fans packed the outdoor arena to see the band's last ever show. 这是一场绝无仅有的演唱会，成千上万名粉丝挤满户外场馆，欣赏这个乐团的最后一场演出。或是 Simon thought that the art exhibit was an experience like no other.Simon 觉得这场美术展是一次与众不同的体验。
Those lucky enough to visit Rio this February can enjoy the once-in-a-lifetime experience of witnessing Carnival in all its glory as the city comes alive from the 9th to the 14th. So this year, Carnival will take place from the 9th to the 14th over 5 days. And indeed, if you're lucky enough to have this experience, and this experience is probably once in a lifetime for most of us, because if we don't live anywhere close to Brazil and we have to buy a ticket and make that trip, we probably won't be doing that every year or even more than a few times. So for most of us, it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, which simply means that we only get to experience it once in our lives.
Right. So, of course, everybody can say they have a once-in-a-lifetime experience, something that happened in their life that was really great, something that they will remember for the rest of their lives. And, of course, we probably don't have anything else that is as wonderful as that one experience. So maybe you will have a once-in-a-lifetime experience if you witness Carnival in all its glory. So if something's in all its glory, it is showing the best that it can show. And, of course, that's the best that Brazil has to show. If you see Carnival, you will be the envy of all your friends.
Right. So the phrase in all its glory can also be used to talk about a person. You can say in all his or her glory. I could say, for instance, that the bride came out during the wedding in her beautiful gown and she showed herself to the public in all her glory. So the bride was beautiful and she was shining and she was the center of attention. Now here, Rio comes alive during Carnival. When a place comes alive, it means it becomes full of energy. So this implies that Rio normally isn't so lively. It might be a little bit more peaceful and more serene, but during Carnival, it comes alive. It becomes really lively. It's like a public outdoor party.
Right. I'm sure Rio is a really interesting city during the rest of the year, but it really comes alive. It's really exciting during Carnival, which again takes place from the 9th to the 14th this month during Guonian. And of course, a lot of people don't necessarily stay in Taiwan during that time. A lot of people want to travel overseas, especially after the pandemic has pretty much gone away and people are free to travel. So Brazil might be a destination you could take under consideration. So yeah, experience this exciting city during this time or at other times of the year. That's wonderful as well. And with the amazing energy of its people, the beauty of its landscapes, and the magic of its carnival, Rio is truly a destination like no other. And that's how we wrap things up here. You often do this with an essay. You use this with pattern with this or that, and then you say some sort of conclusive sentence. So yes, it has all these things. It has this amazing energy. It's got lots of wonderful landscapes, and of course, it's got the magic of carnival. So a landscape, of course, is just something you look at that has to do with the land. So, of course, here in Taiwan, we've got some really wonderful landscapes of the ocean and the mountains and things like that. And, of course, you can see similar things in Brazil. You could also see the magic of carnival. So with all these things, Rio is truly a destination like no other.
That's right. And destination simply means the place where you want to go, the place where you want to end up in. You can talk about your flight destination, which means your flight or your plane is going to land at that place where you want to go. And Rio is a destination like no other. Like no other means that it cannot be compared to anywhere else. I could say that my friend is a cook like no other. She is such a great cook that you can't compare her with anyone else.
And Rio is truly a destination like no other. It is truly unique. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始介绍了里约的狂欢节庆典，那有一句写到 This exciting event has deep roots in African, European, and indigenous cultures. 这个令人兴奋的活动在非洲、欧洲和原住民文化中具有深厚的根源。好，那么 root原本是指这个植物的根，在这边是用它的复数形 roots 引申表达根源或是基础。当我们说 have one's roots in 点点点，或者是 have roots in 点点点，就可以表达发源自什么，根源于什么什么。好，那么文中是在 roots 前面加上形容词deep， 就是表达有深厚的根源。我们顺便补充几个可以表达起源根源的用法。好，第一个补充的是 stem from。 这个 stem S-T-E-M 它原本是植物的茎、柄或者是梗，那它当不及物动词可以表达起源于，所以 stem from somebody or something 可以表达由什么造成啊，源自于什么什么。那第二个补充的用法是 originate， 它当不及物动词有发源起源的意思，那么常常会搭配 from 或是 in 再加名词去表达发源自什么或是起源于什么。好，那么第三个补充的是 derive from something， 或者是可以用 be derived from something， 这也可以表达源自于什么什么。那么 derive 这个动词它是指来自、起源于，或者是有从什么当中获得的意思。那我们看个例句。Many English words are derived from Latin. 许多英文单词源自于拉丁文。好，那课文第二部分最后一句提到，想要观赏最顶尖的森巴舞团，你需要购票前往森巴馆，这是举办狂欢节森巴舞表演的特别展演场地。文中它用到 venue。这个字可以指像事件、活动等等它的场所、举办地点，而这个单字当作字根的时候，则有 come 到来的意思。好，那我们就来补充这个字根 venue V-E-N-U-E 和 vent V-E-N-T 这一类字根，它表示 come 就是有来啊、到来或是出现的意思，像 event 活动事件 invent发明等等，它们其实都跟到来出现有关。那我们这边来补充两个带有这一类字根的单字。第一个是 advent， 那它的字首 ad 表示 to 朝向，字根 vent 表示到来，那从字面意思来看就是指 come to， 所以 advent 它就有问世啊、出现的意思。那第二个补充的是 revenue， 它的字首 re 表示 back 往回， venue 这部分表示 come 到来，那从字面意思来看，它就是 come back 回来。我们可以用收回来的钱、收入去联想说 revenue 它表示公司收益啊、政府税收等等的意思。好，那以上就是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Legendary. The legendary tales of the hero have been passed down for centuries. Carnival.Every year, the town hosts a carnival filled with music, dancing, and exciting rides. Indigenous. The tour guide told us that the indigenous people of this land have a deep connection to the sea. Elaborate. The artist created an elaborate painting, paying close attention to every detail and color choice. Costume. Children dressed up in costumes as their favorite characters and went to trick-or-treat on Halloween night. Venue. In choosing the venue for their wedding, Ben and Jennifer considered factors like cost and location. Landscape. The peaceful forest landscape charms travelers seeking to escape busy city life. Destination. During winter, the mountain resort becomes a popular travel destination for skiing.
Discussion Starter starts now!
It's time now for our discussion starter, and the question is, would you rather visit Rio during Carnival than during another time of year? Why or why not?
Well, I'd prefer visiting at some other time of year because I don't really like crowds. I don't like to be in a place where there are a lot of people. And I would like to concentrate on visiting some of the places in Rio that's always there, not only during Carnival, like the Celeron Steps or Christ the Redeemer.
Interesting, but I would like to visit Rio during Carnival. Yes, like you, I don't really like crowds, but I think it's worth it to fight those crowds because it sounds like there's some really great dancing to check out and some great music. I certainly love to hear a good tune. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.